Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on the Holly Hamel Picture Show podcast. Today, I have with me T, who is a believer in using the power of play and collaboration to help build a better future. Combining decades of experience in different fields such as conflict mediation, gamification, and behavioral science, they are taking knowledge that has traditionally been used to exploit and ensnare, and they're using it to empower and to heal. So, T, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited to hear about all of this um, wonderful explorations that you've been doing.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. It's really great.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, let's just jump right in. I'm just really excited to learn about the gamification
Yes,
process.
let's play.
Yeah, let's play. I love that. So, So, a popular phrase that I've heard in playing games and sports and things like that is, um, it's not whether you win or lose or it's how you play the game. Can you just tell me what your opinion and take on that phrase is?
Yeah. Um, so I feel like that was it was given to me as a kid. This idea that you got to play the game well. Um, but we we tend to still focus on the winning, right? That we have a lot of the millennials got all their participation trophies, right? When I was a kid, there weren't participation trophies, and you you kind of got you still get graded on your performance. We look at the Olympics, and it's all just like you're going for the belief in the best of the best, and you're always competing. And almost all the games that we have that we grow up playing are about competing with another person. And we talk about your skill in the game and how you play, but not necessarily how you play with the other person. Do you lose well? What it like we don't see a lot of conversations as much right now about sportsmanship and the way you treat the other players. And and then internally is how are you playing for yourself? And we can see a lot of this happen with Simone Biles in the Olympics when she made a choice for herself that the right thing for her to do was not to compete and to let other people step forward because that was the right choice for her. She got a lot of criticism for it. There's a lot of backlash. And when we look at games as a kind of a microcosm, right? Almost all the games we play are small expressions of human achievement and human engagement. They're microcultures, if you will, of humanity. When we're looking at the way in which we're playing Monopoly, or Risk, just to choose, two more popular American games, most of the time we play to win, period. And when we take that and we put that into our lives, we're in a pattern of bankrupting our friends and neighbors, dominating each other, and trying to win above all costs. And that manifests in our friendships and our relationships. And for me, when I think about how do I play the game, I really want to think about, like, at the end of the game, when the game is over, how does everybody feel?
Mm,
Does does everybody walk away feeling like a loser except one person? That's not a way I want my community to feel. It's not a way I want to be in my relationships. And a number of years ago, I heard someone say that there are people that are in love with each other, and there are people that are in love against each other. And I just like it worked in my brain like defragging a computer, or just this thing that was eating away at all these presumptions about my behavior in relationship. I would want to make the grand gesture or do the big surprise or host the big party for someone I love. And whether I liked it or not, I had to really look at the fact that my partners and I were often trying to one up each other, right? Show each other that, I love you more, or I'm a better friend, or I show up in this way, and you don't meet me. And how do I play that game is a really important question. How am I in my relationships with my people? How
mm.
am I showing up? How am I playing the game of life? Not just how am I winning, but like what am I doing to play? And I just think there's a lot to be mined in that from, we look at mindfulness is all about how we're playing the game of life.
Mm, I love that. So, how have you taken games and the psychology of games, the approach to the culture of games? How have you turned that into a healing arts for the community?
Well, let's start with how I turned it into a business practice, and then we'll pull that into the healing art. So I was trained by corporate America to be a teamwork facilitator, conflict mediator, um, communications consultant. Right, I was bringing teams together and turning them into high performing machines. I was taking call centers and increasing their call volume and their worker engagement. Um, and part of that training was how do you how do you manipulate people? How do you get people to do things or become aware of things without just pointing at it? Because often if you point at something, people can't see it, right? So games became a critical tool for that, where I would play a game called Flux. It's a game you can buy at almost any game store, and they've got a whole bunch of different themes of it now. And it's this great game about change. Right. And the game is constantly changing. And when you start, there's no real win condition, and you don't know how to win, and you don't really know how to play. And you figure that out as you go. And I would give that to a group of people, and I would have them play the game, and I would just stand back and watch. And I would see who was like really gunning for trying to understand the rules and win fast. And I would look for who was trying to share rules about what they understood, and who, people that were sharing knowledge. And it gave me, because people weren't working, they were playing a game, their behavior is different.
Mm,
And that container for people to be able to express themselves, or show up in a more authentic way, let me see where some of the communication and power dynamics within a group were off, right? Because one person might be trying to win above others when I didn't give them a win condition that, you were supposed to win, just the group. Maybe, okay, and then we have them play again. What happens if we shift it so that you as a group are trying to get to the win condition fastest? Or you're going to play 3 games and you want different people to win each time. And then you see how their behavior changes when you give them a different setup like that. So that was, me using that tool to help teams be more effective. But in the end, decades later, I realized all I was doing was figuring out how to help companies get more out of their employees without paying them more, how to get more out of their clients without regard for how much their clients were spending. Right? Oh, you're going to get more from your people, but maybe you're bankrupting your clients, so they can't be return clients. Right?
oh, like financially, like
Yeah.
fiscally bankrupting. Okay, got that. Got it.
Right. So as my career continued, I got into, this concept of gamification. How do we gamify the sales process? How do we gamify the onboarding and employee performance process? And we use game dynamics to motivate people. People are motivated by the gold stars, by the leaderboards, by all of these different elements of gaming. There's a great book called Actionable Gamification by Yukai Chow, which was this source material for me in corporate training on how to use basically all the different ways that people are motivated, and how do you find a way to round out your motivational strategy so that you're motivating all the different people on all the different levels, which is great and it's very effective. But if you do it without regard for the welfare of the user, all you do is drain them. You find whatever motivates them and you get as much out of them as you can, and then they're bereft. They don't have money or time for their life or energy. All these phone games that kids end up spending thousands of their parents' dollars, because all you have to do is click a button and it'll, for just $2, and you get more gems on your game, and it's really easy, and it works, and people play the game a lot, except they shouldn't be playing that much, right? It takes from their lives, it takes from their wallets. And I realized that I was a part of that. And I wanted to reject it and just leave and not do anything else. And I realized that there's magic in it, because if we can use that to that level, we can also use it as a force for good. We can do ethical gamification, and we can use those same models to help organizations that need help. to help nonprofits and to help people individually to find ways to learn about their own motivations and put those motivations to work in their life. And so that's been this practice. And what I'm doing with A Simple Twist is to help people find what brings out their best player, right? When they sit down to a game, what inspires them? What gets them excited about playing a game? And then how do we put that to use in your life so that it's actually benefiting you, not just that you're being exploited by it by the people that know how to use it?
Gotcha. Okay, so then what was your kind of turning point in saying that, okay, this is kind of an exploitative process. It's, creating bankruptcy. It's, like draining people. And then what was your turning point in shifting that paradigm?
Oh, I sat across from the CTO of this multinational or broadcasting company, and they, they have a market cap of how many, like small broadcasting, how much of the broadcasting market they can effectively use without violating federal limits. And in a roundabout way, but not too roundabout, the CTO was like, we need a way to be able to get more without breaking this law.
Mm.
Right? How can we get around this? And he hadn't finished explaining it before I had solved the problem. Right? So I'm sitting across from him knowing this is a game of resource management. I play a lot of resource management board games and video games. And all we need to do is shift this over to here and do these types of things in order for you to be able to do what you want to do without breaking this rule. And I realized I couldn't tell him the answer. I wasn't going to do this. I wasn't going to hand them a tool to be able to take over more small broadcasting companies and dominate this market more. And I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the last client. I was working, I was making all the money and traveling all over. And, I had succeeded in my job as far as like all the things I was told were my win conditions for success. And I wasn't happy. I wasn't spending time with my family. I was only home 80 hours a week. And I realized like all of this sitting in the chair across from this guy is like, I don't want this. I don't want to be doing this anymore. I have to find another way. And I started titrating up. I moved to a smaller company, a smaller consulting company. I thought that might be a better tool. Nope, they were still doing the same thing. They were trying to grow to become that thing. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. I have to find a way to use this to help real people.
So, what does it mean to change the win conditions? Because I heard you mention that, like, that your winning conditions were this, like, the success or like this, corporate, number or things like that. So, I heard you say that you changed your win conditions for
Yeah.
your personal goals, right? So, what does that mean? Can we unpack that a little bit?
Yeah. So we're all programmed, right? We're programmed from birth by our culture, by our parents, by the media, and we get lessons given to us of what it means to be successful, what it means to be a man or a woman or the good son, the good daughter, and we go out into the world with that set of win conditions, right? We're told that winning the game means getting more points than the other people. And it's one of the reasons like I love this TV show Ted Lasso that's on Apple TV. And I'm not a organized sports fan, and it actually took some cajoling from some friends like, you got to watch this show, because the coach of this soccer team in London is a small league American football coach who doesn't care about the score and doesn't care if you win the game. He wants you to play well and have a good time. And that's his whole thing, is just believe in yourself and show up and do the best you can. And it doesn't matter what the score is. We win if you do that thing. That's an example of him changing the win condition for the team. And it takes a while for the team to understand that losing the game isn't losing to their coach. It's not letting them down. And it resonated a lot for me. I played football for 1 year in high school. I was terrible. But I was on an undefeated football team, right? Our star players were so good that we won every game. We were so good, in fact, that by the time halftime came around, me being a fourth string player that you shouldn't put on the field got to play. I got to play often the last entire half of every game. By the end of the season, I had more play time than our first string running back, but I was awful. And I always got ridiculed. I always got criticized and made fun of and teased. But I was going out on the field and I was trying.
Mm.
And that win condition, if I could have known then that my win condition was playing as many opportunities as I could and having a good time with my teammates, then I won every game,
Mm.
right? And I did. Our team won every game, but I certainly didn't feel like I won. I feel like the team won in spite of me. And
Right.
so as I've stepped forward and tried to put this into my life now, the idea is winning having a lot of money, right? If you're raised in a monopoly family or a high income family, you're given messages like, oh, you need to make X amount, or you need to go be a doctor, lawyer, whatever. Your win conditions are all about monetary gain.
Mm.
I know a lot of people who made a lot of money and found out that they weren't happy just because they made a lot of money. It's not a good win condition. I look at the billionaires we have right now that don't seem happy in their lives, right? They're just trying to make more money. And so a lot of it with the different motivational styles, kind of bringing in the motivational dynamics, the behavioral science of it, is learning what matters to you. For some people, it's not the money, but it's the ability to do the things they want to do. I want to be able to go on adventures. I want to be able to travel. Oh, well, you could work in travel. You could work in other things. Knowing people that follow the Burning Man circuit around, or event circuits, and they make half as much as they used to, but they're going to all these events for free. They get to dance and travel and go to these places and build these amazing events that other people enjoy, and their win condition changed. They changed what mattered to them to feel like a success.
Yeah, I like that. I can see, yeah, I can definitely relate to a few of those things, like some influence in my family that was like, the monopoly uh,
Mm-hmm.
win condition versus the one that I started realizing was more of like the, I don't know, maybe the game of life conditions, something where I've got the, just the family love and the security of just knowing I have a place. So tell me, how can playing more games help me and my relationships?
Oh my God, so many different ways. Um, Before I answer that specifically, I want to talk about the fact that, like, there's this term gamer, right? Are you a gamer? Would you call yourself a gamer?
Me, no, but my son is.
Yeah. So why aren't you a gamer? Do you like games?
I think about, I do like some games. I think about when I just hear the word gamer, my first thought is somebody who plays a lot of video games.
Okay.
And that is like doing stuff online, like attached to the controller, that kind of thing. And I used to do that when I was younger. Like I was really into video games as a child. I played like Coleco, Atari, Nintendo,
And
so
yeah.
all the way up, and then I just kind of, I think probably like second year in college, probably got away from that. But
Why?
um, I remember this is so funny. Okay, so my college roommate and I were both Aries and great friends, and we were playing Mortal Kombat on Sega at the boys that lived across the courtyard from us in college. And we were playing the game. We were getting, it was like a really heated game. We were getting really into it. And I'm like the type of person that does the controller, and I'm like, a little bit of a button mash.
You're
But I'm
ducking.
like, I'm like really like doing okay, and so I'm like really like silly to watch. But anyway, so I was doing all that and just getting like really physically into it. It was really like getting into my nervous system and just feeling like so like entrenched in the game. And I'm a bit of a button pusher, like
Button masher. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, just chaotic, like push anything and see what happens. But with this particular game, I knew a few of the combinations, but it's just kind of a smash everything and see what works. And just getting like really high adrenaline, really into it. And what happened with me and Meredith when as soon as we finished the game or whatever, I can't even remember who won or lost, but we put down the controllers and started like wrestling each other. Physically got into actual physical combat over the game because we were so like and I was just like, wow, that is and it was fine, you know, it was in good fun, but it really surprised me that we got physical because that's not really how our relationship was, and it just brought out this like animal instinct in both of us, and I just thought to myself, this is a really mm, stimulating there's a really the stimulating opportunity in this, or you know, side effect in this that I don't know if I really want to like tap into all that much. And so you know, because I was actually like doing it in pretend world, or you know, in this game,
Mhm.
and then I was fighting in real life, and I'm like, huh, you know, and it just kind of gave me pause, you know, and it, like I said, it didn't affect our relationship or anything like that, but it was one of those things where I was like, wow, I got like completely um, spellbound by this
Yeah,
experience. It changed my behavior of what was like normal and authentic for me. It compelled me to be violent, you know, and it wasn't like, I mean, we didn't really hurt each other. We were just like
right.
wrestling, you know, just doing little Southern girl things. But it left an impression on me that I was like, do I want that?
That's awesome. Thank you for your share.
You're welcome.
So, so for me, that brings up you're totally a gamer.
Okay.
Just because you haven't picked up a controller in years doesn't make you not a gamer.
Right.
Um,
Have a
and
balance.
that that example is why we use games, right? We have violence that we want to express. We have aggression that we need to express. Like I I play Call of Duty so that I can kill Nazi zombies, right?
Mm,
Because they have a like a subset of the game that is a cooperative game where you're not competing against your friends. You and your friends are on a team together, and you're being attacked by hordes of Nazi zombies, and you kill Nazi zombies, and it becomes a portal to be able to act out and get out emotion and aggression and experiences that we can't do in the real world. Shouldn't, not can't, I guess, but shouldn't do in the real world. And games have often been that, right? We've used games historically for millennia as ways to resolve conflict, right? You know, you can use the gladiatorial games or games of chess. You know, you look at the Aztec hoop ball game, which I can never remember the correct name of. Um, but games were used to settle international disputes, right? King Laertes, are you familiar with the story of King Laertes in the game of dice? I may not be pronouncing his name right.
I'm not familiar.
So, I got this from a book called Reality is Broken by Jane McGonigal, which is probably the most important book on gaming that I think has been written so far. And she tells the story of this king who did not have enough food to feed his people. They knew that they would not survive the year. They had a drought, and they needed a way to reduce the amount of consumption. And he had recently been introduced to the game of dice, and he realized that when he got focused, when he was just in it playing dice, he didn't care. Like he forgot to eat, because games can do that for you. You know, we have stories of a lot of kids who play games and don't eat and get sick, malnourished. There are stories of kids whose families have to bring them food because they won't leave the game thing, and so they'll eat while they're playing. And so he gave to his people dice, and he said, look, this is what we're going to do. We're going to have people that are eating one day, and the next day you play dice. You don't have to work, you don't have to do it, just play dice all day.
Wow.
And his kingdom survived the drought and the famine and was able to come back from that. Um, Games improve our neuroplasticity, right? They they give us a new set of rules to learn. Like when you decide you're going to learn a new board game, a new card game, a new video game, you have to learn a new set of rules. You have to imagine a different reality than the one you're in, with different religions or belief sets or rule structures of what is and isn't allowed and how those things play together. And then your brain starts learning how that world works. And there are a lot of current studies out, like they're teaching people in rest homes to play video games. There are people designing video games specifically to help elderly people build more neuroplasticity and delay memory loss.
Wow.
And that's just the big ticket items, because then when you talk about how you take a game and you play with your partner, your kids, you're learning how to communicate on a new rule set. Often, if you're playing a new game together, you get to level the playing field. Nobody in the family is the adult who knows all the rules already and is teaching the kids. And sometimes you can turn it around and you can play a game with your kids that your kids know well, and you get to take a different seat of power with your kids, and they get to teach you how this world works. And you get to be a beginner in a place where they're advanced. Those changes of behavioral dynamics are healing for groups. They're healing for families. They're healing in relationships. One of my favorite things is to we like to watch fictional stories together, right? Like you're like, oh, I've got this show that means so much to me. When you meet someone that you like, you're like, I would really like to go through this show with you and share it with you, right? I do the same thing with games. There are games that have stories and lore and worlds within them. It's not just about running around and shooting things. The writing in some of these games is really beautiful, and the characters are very developed. And so you're essentially playing through a mini series with your partner and getting to, some of them are choose your own adventures. You're like, what do we want to do here? Do we want to side with the pirate captain and go be pirateers, or do we want to side with the city guard and defend them against the pirates? And then you get a different story based on which one you choose, and you get to experience that together. And so it becomes this bonding experience where one person gets shot and you go and you learn to help them. You're not just out there trying to get as many kills as you can. You're trying to survive as a team,
Hmm.
and learning to do that.
This is really interesting because I just had a coaching call with a client today, and she was she was playing she found that she was starting to become, like kind of addicted to this game where she kept like telling herself, I'll just keep playing until I get the jackpot. And then she like played and played and played. And I'm almost seeing how that reflects as like her getting wins in that game is like was making up for some of the feelings of loss in her life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can kind of see that could be how that can kind of like get certain needs met and like,
Yeah.
it's just scratched. But then how like um
How
yeah,
do we do with the addiction?
yeah.
Yeah, great segue. So I think one of the leading people in that I follow talking about this is Dr. K with Healthy Gamer. He runs a Twitch stream podcast where he talks a lot about this. Like most of what he does is about how to be a healthy gamer. And addiction is a big thing. Just like with any kind of drug, games are tapping into that same thing. They're tapping into the scarcity mentality. They're tapping into the randomness of jackpot lottery concepts. And we as individual humans, even as individual families, are up against corporations that have spent decades studying how to exploit you as a person to get you to play more and spend more and think you're going to get to that jackpot so that you will spend more time playing the game, right? They design casinos so you can't find your way out, and right, all of those things. So it's not easy to push against that, which is why a lot of people just don't play games at all, because they've either been addicted before, they've seen people close to them get really addicted in unhealthy ways, so they just choose to opt out entirely, which is sad because there's a lot of value in games. But just like drinking or working too much or working out or even meditating, like you see that people take meditating to an unhealthy level, or yoga to an unhealthy level where it's the only thing that they're doing.
Mm.
That kind of siloed focus isn't good in any area of your life, right? And so learning how to regulate is really important, and learning how to identify games that aren't good for you versus games that are is also important, right? I don't play games that use emotional manipulation. There are a bunch of phone games that are about like, oh, you need to save this woman and her child, and you're going to build the home for them, and right, and oh, they're just these. They're just trying to get in and poke at your empathy button and
Yeah.
make you play the game so that you're saving this thing. And if you don't play every day, they'll die while you're not playing. Like that's what I call dark gamification. I think it needs to be as regulated as off-market drugs are out. Like you can't just sell alcohol that doesn't have real content. You shouldn't be able to sell food that is actively bad for people, right? We have an FDA, we have an ABC that monitors all these things, and none of them are monitoring this gaming community.
Interesting.
And that needs to change
Yeah.
because there is a lot of dark gamification out there, and it hurts people.
Mm.
But just like we shouldn't throw away all drugs, or we shouldn't get rid of all mindfulness and yoga practices, we need to teach people how to engage in it at a level that's healthy for them and in ways that are actually benefiting their lives. And that's part of what I want to do is like people are like, oh, I have a gaming problem. I have a gaming, I want gaming to help my life. I love gaming, but it's ruined every relationship I've had because my partners always feel like the game is more important to them than I am. Great.
Right.
So we have a regulation conversation to talk about. We have a collaboration because maybe it wouldn't be as much as if you were playing with your partner as opposed to playing by yourself all the time, and just kind of learning how to do that.
Mm. So I always have I have very happy childhood memories about playing like tabletop games with my family. My grandparents and I played like Rummy Cube and
Hmm.
um, playing some fun card games with my mom. And then whenever we would have people over in the evening, we would play games. And um, so how does what's your opinion on the difference between electronic games versus tabletop games?
Um, I think they meet different needs, much like hiking versus running versus going for a walk around your neighborhood, right? They touch different things. Um, you can have great video games that are slow paced and turn based that you can play with your friends. Um, one of the ones we play here in my house is a game called Clash of Heroes, and it's essentially like a battle chess kind of game where I make a move and then somebody else makes a move, and when we play with four people, two of us have to like make our moves together at the same time and coordinate them. But it's essentially a board game on a screen.
Okay. Yeah.
What's nice about that is there's no cleanup. That's what a
Uh,
lot of people are finding about like digital versions of really complex board games is that the board game does all the math for you. So you don't have to spend your whole time with this big scoring sheet. And when you're done at the end of the night, you don't have to spend an hour putting all of these pieces away.
yeah. Or your dog eats one or something.
Yes, exactly. Or the cats knock over the board or whatever.
Yeah.
I love board games. I'm a huge board gamer. I just came back from a board gaming convention up in Vancouver. Um, and there's something that can't be replicated in a video game that is about sitting at a table with a group of people and talking and sharing about the game and connecting human to human.
Mm.
But there's also I play Fortnite as well. And Fortnite allows me to get online and play on a team with people from anywhere in the world. And suddenly I'm on a team with three other people and we're on our mics coordinating and communicating and learning how to rapidly build rapport and communicate with each other in order to achieve an objective together.
Mm.
That's an important skill set.
Yeah. So I had a funny conversation with a friend, and we were talking about the beginning of a romantic relationship, and he was kind of like, "Well, I really like, um, playing the long game or like doing the chase or like whatever." And I said, there's this term of like game playing in relationships that has a negative connotation, like not
Mhm.
being um, confusing, inconsistent, things like that. But then there's also this. I almost kind of prefer to call it like a healthy version of it is just like being like courtship, kind of like letting the relationship unfold and letting it kind of have a little bit of mystery. So like I just wonder if you have any what's your what's your take on that idea of like playing the game, or if somebody's got game or doesn't have game or whatever.
Right. And that's one of the challenges with the concept of gaming, right? If you're gaming the system,
Mm.
is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It sounds bad. I don't. Well, I mean, gaming the system. I mean, is that um, like making it work for you or outsmarting the system, or is that um, playing the game. I don't know. There's a lot of like what's semantics that semantics that go
Yes.
along with the word game, and it's funny like now that we're having this conversation, I'm thinking of all these things in the vernacular that relate to game playing.
Right. And the first thing you have to do in your relationship when you're talking about what game are we playing is, what do you mean? Right?
Mm.
Like, are you talking about what like what emotional, like, what game are we playing about, like how we show up to each other? Because most people are playing some kind of game, like, I want you to see my best self first before you see the warts, to know da 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 da, da kind of thing. And other people play a, I'm going to show you my ugly side and see if you can handle it, and if you can't, then you're out, and that's just fine, right? And those are really different games. And the challenge is, most of us aren't sharing that we're playing a game.
Mm.
And if you want to be successful at a collaborative game, which is what relationships are, right? Relationships should be a collaborative game. You're working together towards the happiness and the betterment of both of you. And we
Mm.
should be operating with the same rule sets. I've been using this phrase a lot in my life, where I'm like, okay, I'm playing a new game, which is cards on the table, not holding my hand anymore. I want you to know what cards I have. I want you to know the good cards and the bad cards, right? And and I want to talk openly about how I'm playing the game, because if how I'm playing the game is hurting you, if it's causing you harm, because I like to be secretive, because I like surprises, but you don't like surprises, then I might be playing my game really well and planning some really cool surprises for you, but it's not what you want. It's not actually going to make you feel like you're meeting a win condition in our relationship. You're going to feel constantly on edge because you sense this deception and this secretive thing happening. You're smart. You can read the body language. You can tell that I'm hiding something. And then your brain is trying to figure out what I'm hiding. Is it good? Is it bad? You don't know. And that's not a way to be in. But if you do like surprises, then you probably know that I'm planning something. And like, making sure we're communicating and we're all playing by the same rules, it's really important, because so many of us, some people were raised in a Monopoly family, and other people were raised in a Catan family, and those are different games. And you're then trying to manage your family and your household based on entirely different rules.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, I can see how that could be challenging. And so, what do you like recommend? Just like having a conversation and saying like, how do you make that connection? How do you bridge that? What game are we playing?
Well, there's a number of different things. With my clients, I actually do a full behavioral gamer assessment, right? There's a company online that has been doing this for years, and they use their results to help companies learn how to market to gamers more. But their research, the survey that they use, is very much like a Myers-Briggs or an Enneagram, right? It's a personality profiling thing that says, based on the games you play and the things that matter to you, um, this organization is called Quantic Foundry. And based on the games you play and the way you play them, let's look at what type of gamer you are, right? And if you play games that are all about destruction and conquering and killing and whatnot, and for you what matters is your name on the high scoreboard, or getting the most whatever in the game, that puts you in like the gladiator, killer, warrior category. And then your partner or your kids, or your work group, whatever, if they then do the assessment and they're like, oh, I like the social aspect of playing games. For me, it's all about connecting with other people. And in the game itself, I like exploring the world, right? For me, finding the edges of the map and collecting all of the pretty flowers in the game, that's what matters. Those are two very different gamer types. So learning and being able to authentically identify who you are as a gamer, we can all make adjustments, right? I'm a gladiator and a bard, right? My things come out on two. I'm all about the story and the deep characters and like the adventure and the epic meaning. I like to play games that are about like doing something cool, like filling a big story. But I also really like the high skill, like getting able to show off that I've been playing games for a long time.
Mm.
But if you and I are playing, I don't want to play from the gladiator aspect, right? Because we're getting to know each other, we're learning about each other's gameplay. I want to play something that highlights the bard, right? And that's part of what I try to help people with is see how you can build a party of gamers, right? If you play D&D at all or any of those adventure games, you want a well-rounded party. You want a party that supports each other. You can't have just a party of, free agent warriors that are just out there smashing things. You need a healer. You
Yeah.
need a collector, right? And those people have to communicate and work together. And so that's the big things is communication and collaboration.
I see. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I've been really fascinated just from a psychological standpoint from like D&D. I haven't actually like played it yet, but I'm making plans to because I want to see. I'm fascinated by the alignments and then like the classifications of what the types of players are and things like that. And so I've taken those very long quizzes and figured out some of those things, and it's really fascinating. I feel like it fall into the classifications like uh, the enneagrams, the archetypes,
Mm-hmm.
theology, things like Myers Briggs, things like that, and I just find that fascinating. And then the role playing, acting out these characters together, it really feels like it would be very informative for human psychology for me. And so I'm kind of interested in kind of seeing, because I'm really into like organizational psychology and how people work together in groups and interact together, like when there's more than two. And yeah, so I've been pretty interested in that. And then let's see, I had another question. So what is the path to seeing this game effort, like teaching people about games, like kind of bringing more awareness to the psychology of games and how they can be used? How do you see this impacting the world?
Um, so I think a fundamental problem with humanity is that we're in a competition mode, right? To use gaming vernacular, we're playing on a PvP server, right? Person versus person, player versus player. We are still competing with each other for resources that we have so much of that we're wasting it on a daily basis, right? We're competing over land and food and money, and we don't need to be at this point. We are not the human race that we were hundreds of years ago. We need to be playing collaborative games. We need to be our business, our economies, right? I think if we could hand over the world's financial economy to the gamers that have been balancing economies in their gaming world across global audiences, we would have a more balanced economy tomorrow,
Oh,
right? But the powers that are in control won't let that happen right now. And so I think the first step is to encourage more collaborative games so that people have a framework to refer to. Like I'd rather be playing collaborative games than competitive and like shifting. I think that's a piece.
what about that GameStop buyout thing that happened? What was that all about?
So
Like
so
gamers kind of
that
took over the financial like abundance of America for a little while. Was that like a glimpse at the game?
I think so. I think that the whole Bitcoin cryptocurrency move is a glimpse into that, but it's still the competitive version, right? It's competitive gamers realizing that world finance is just a money game and they can play it better than these old guys who haven't continued to evolve their understanding of how flexible money is, right? So the crypto kids went in there and was like, we know how to play this game much better and much faster than you are. We're just going to create new currencies that are based off of things you don't understand that have high value, and we're going to buy you out. And they've been doing that. Right? And I can't play with those kids. Those kids are way smarter than I am at those games. Um, if we can take that energy and turn it into not individual success, but global success, collaborative community success, we'll see a change. But to do that, we have to change from the competitive mindset to the collaborative mindset. So that's one piece of it. The how, I have an interesting theory on how. So right now, a simple twist is a coaching business. I'm just trying to take this concept and help you help others. I want to help Burning Man, camps that are maybe dealing with some communication issues and help them play some games together and learn how to do things. I want to help small businesses and nonprofits and people in polyamorous relationships come to the table, play a different kind of game, and learn about each other. Right? That's phase one. And then, but I'm only one person. I can only have so much impact, and I can only be so many places at one time. We have all over the world thousands of kids sitting in hospitals, right, in children's hospitals, that are playing a lot of video games, right? That's what they can do. That's what they have availability to do, is sit in the hospital and play video games. And there are great nonprofit organizations that make sure there are video game consoles in these hospitals so that kids can play. What if we gave them an opportunity to share their knowledge of games and gaming and become coaches themselves?
My heart. Oh, that's so sweet. Keep going.
And so right now I'm in the process of developing an app that will eventually be able to pair people that are looking for coaching with kids in hospitals that play that game. And then we can build a team of coaches that are then helping those kids add new skills to their skill set of like how to be good coaches, not just good gamers, but good coaches. And those kids have their own stories of how you overcome adversity, how do you overcome fear of death, social ostracization. Like, these kids have amazing stories. So we put them with other people, and then these kids both get their own income and their own job and a different kind of purpose in the world. And we spread this different mentality of gaming and how to change your win conditions on an exponential level.
Oh, it really is plucking at my heartstrings. That is so sweet and powerful, and just the so I've been kind of waiting to like share this idea that I have, this philosophy that that really, like, this life that we're living, this reality, is that the real us, the true essence of who we are, is actually in some other place, and that we're just kind of doing a simulation. That this whole life is just like a game of Sims of some sort, and we get to choose. Maybe, like, if you believe in reincarnation, like, we get to come back and play a different game, or maybe we,
Yeah.
choose a different genre, or like whatever. In one lifetime I'm, a warrior, and in one lifetime I'm, you know, a woodland creature trying to get a nut. So, or in this lifetime, whatever. So, and so, there's this idea that we are like doing the simulation, and that it is like a choose your own adventure, and that but the real us is like we're all, there's no like enemies, that we're all just like kids, innocent, energy, just playing somewhere, just pure energy. And then, some games I get to play the villain, and like I get to, you know, scratch that itch and get to, like, express that, integrate that shadow, and like now I've like I've beat you, and then like the next one, and like like then I'm the damsel in distress. I'm, Princess Peach or something like that, and you're Mario and you save me, or all these different lifetimes that we can live, and that we're all just like playing a simulation. And so that it helps me to think about life as, it changes my philosophy about life, and not like take it so personally, and just say like, okay, well, what's my strategy, and how am I going to like move at this mark? And then and this person that seems like um a villain in my life is really just a worthy opponent, and it takes
Yeah.
away that heaviness. It takes away that like deep, yeah, just like personal insult or whatever. And I'm able to like move through that better. And then then another analogy that I use is like when we're able to not take everything so personally, and not be so like triggered, and so like in the emotional response, when we're able to like rise up and kind of get a bird's eye view of what life is doing, and what the different relationships are, and the different things that happen. It's like playing this like cosmic chess game, and it takes a strategy, and then you just see each person's moves as not necessarily, um, it just changes the perspective, for me, and it takes some of the like the enemy factor out of it, and kind of replaces it with like the worthy opponent factor, and that's done wonders for me. So what is your, okay, so just to follow up that thought, when you talk about having the children who are, have terminal illnesses or whatever, that they're in these hospitals, that they might not get like this long life, but they might get to play these games and still have like a inception kind of life within a life,
Yeah.
and maybe they can even use like what they're learning to turn around and like reverse the fractal and like put it into, helping the people who are going to have long lives and things
Yeah.
like that. That just like kind of blows my mind. So what's your response to that?
I mean, that's part of the point of it, is to give people an opportunity to share their stories, um, and to share what they've learned in playing their game. Right? Generally, people that have played a game a lot, like if you, I'm a big fan of Dragon Age. Right? I like the Dragon Age universe. It's an adventure, kind of a choose your own adventure fantasy game, and there are deep moral stories in it. So I could sit here for another hour and just talk to you the way that some people talk about, their religion and the things that they've learned by reading the Bible. I can tell you the things that I've learned by playing Diablo or by playing Dragon Age, because the stories really matter to me, and the characters in them like, I've learned something through having to choose the different storylines and make decisions with and for these characters. Not all of them survive, and sometimes you have to choose. Like, they give really hard choices, like this character dies or that character dies, and then the story continues. That's not the end of the story, but then you have to move forward without a person in your party. And the opportunity to bring the real life experiences and the game experiences together and share that with other people, right? I think that's kind of all most of us want, is to be heard, right? To know that someone else was there to hear our story.
Mm.
And most of us don't get to do that. We're restricted by, I'm not a good enough writer, or I can't do a podcast, or I've just fear of talking to people and sharing this. And so many people go out and leave this world, no one knowing what their story was. And everyone has a valuable story to share. Every person on this planet has value to share. Um, and this is just another avenue to help people share that story.
Oh, my heart. This is so sweet and amazing. I love this so much. This is so sweet. Ah, wow. That has
Thanks.
just like really touched me in ways that I did not expect. And I do love that. And I love that there have been times when I've worried about, my son and like the amount of video games he was playing and like trying to put some limits on that. But then coming in and like observing him, I remember there was this one game and he was pretty young. I think he was like under 10. And he was playing a game that he built a house, like a hut or something like that. He was able to like build this thing, and then he had like some farm animals, and he wove a basket and things like that. And then he had like a man that like was like working in his house, and I was like, wait a second, is this like a slave? What's happening here? He's like, no, he's just like a man. He's like a hired man that like gets to live in my house and like do these things, and then like when I go off on adventures, he takes care of the chickens or whatever. And I'm like, okay, it was like really cool to kind of understand my son, who did not have as much like life experience or hadn't studied, different things in history, to kind of see what he would naturally do when given resources to, to build or to share or to cultivate and to, plan his, this online life or whatever with these things. And it was really cool because I did get to kind of hear what his internal story was in a way that I don't know that I would have in a different setting. And so that was really sweet. And then I used to worry about him playing like shooter games or whatever. And then I learned that it was, not shooting other humans. It was shooting, like, yeah, zombies or aliens or like whatever. I was like, okay, okay. Kind of changing the narrative there. And it's been really sweet because he and Drew, my partner, will, like when they're apart, they'll play games together online and like use that as a way to connect with each other and stay
Mhm.
in touch and joke around and stuff. And I don't know. I think there's a lot of fun things to. It's really just kind of like a new. It's part of the new generation. Like I don't really think that there's a way to escape it too. My son is
Right.
only 15 now, and when I was struggling with like the amount of time that he was on electronics, I talked to some other parents that had kids a little bit older, and they just said this is just part of their social
Yeah.
strata. It's like it's not something that you can fight or that you should, because it's such a, it can be such a like a deep, enriching, colorful like way for them to connect. He connects with friends out of state and keeps those relationships going through these games. And then
Right.
when he's in the same state as them, then they go back to like, fish and swimming, playing tag, whatever, that kind of stuff on
Right.
the movie together. But he's able to keep in touch. So like this is really changing my perspective and really helping me to be more at peace with um, what seems just like different and unknown, I guess. Like even though I did play a lot of games as a kid, it just seems like so like culturally immersive in the next generations. I'm just like,
Yeah.
okay, or where are we going? But it has like hearing your perspective really like helps me to embrace it more and to be more at peace with it and see how it can be a tool for community building, a tool for self-reflection, a tool for creating more bonding and relationships.
And how we play it and which games we play really matter.
Yeah, and then like the winning conditions that really left
Hmm.
an impression on me too. So do you have any final thoughts on this? Is there anything that we haven't covered yet that you want our audience
No,
to?
you know what? You asked some really great questions, and I really liked the way that the conversation continued to evolve. I think I shared most of the things that are kind of on my pulpit when I tend to get on about this. There's always more, but this was a great beginning to this conversation. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. So what type of client might be drawn to you? What are the like? What's your ideal client? Like, who's your person that would be the best um, the best investment in you and your investment in them? Like, who would you are you really like helping in this world?
So individually, I'm most interested in helping people that have gamer addictions that want to be able to continue to game but learn how to regulate and maybe not take it so seriously, because some people they take it so seriously and that's a negative effect on their life. So as someone who nearly lost my job playing video games years ago and had to learn how to do that myself, I'm happy to share that. I also really want to help um, people who maybe like yourself, who maybe used to play games or wanted to play games, but were kind of told that they couldn't, right? Because they were a girl or because they were the younger sibling or whatever the case may be, where someone else was always, it was always their game system. And so you were kind of gamer adjacent or a Nintendo widow, as it used to be called, right? Where you're right. And and maybe you want to play the game, but your partner won't teach you or can't teach you, right? Knowing how to play a game and knowing how to teach playing games, different things. And as a corporate trainer, I have I have all the skills for adult learning principles to help people learn how to do things and shorten the learning curve. One of my favorite recent clients was a guy who wanted to play Fortnite with his son, but his son's really good. And so he didn't want to bring down his son's team and not be able to perform. And so I helped him learn the format and how the game plays and how to change his own win conditions so that he could be an asset to the team, even if he wasn't as fast and as good as the kids, so that he could then play with his son and be able to do that.
This is
Um,
like completely like lighting me up because I'm thinking about the possibilities of being able to, um, you know, uh, connect myself to games that maybe I could play with my son and like have that be a bridge. Because as he's getting older, he's almost 18. He's like leaving and cleaving, like not as interested in mom as much, but and I keep like just trying to find things like, hey, should we go to this concert? Do you want to go camping? Do you want to do this thing? And it seems like a lot of the things that I want to do, he's like, nah, mom, not into it. And I'm like, okay. I'm not gonna pole vault with him, I just know that about myself. So like not at this age. But I think maybe I could, rekindle my spark for video games and be able to do that with him and keep finding even like board games or tabletop games or things when he has time to play those with me and that could be like a bridge to keep us connected in these times when I do feel that he is becoming a man, which I appreciate, but also like
well, if you're looking for good collaborative tabletop games, let me know. Like, because there are some great games like XCOM, which is a game where you're trying to save the planet. It's humans versus aliens, right? And each person at the table has a different job, and one person actually has an app that is controlling like the communications thing that tells everybody like what's happening on the board, and you have to work together to save the planet. And so it's exciting, like a video game. And it's got a lot of those video game elements, but it's a board game that everybody's working together to play.
Nice.
So I like being able to introduce people to games that they've never heard of that have appeal for their whole family. That so
Yeah, I love that. So what would be some so I have a lot of coaches that watch my
mhm.
content. And so what would be something that you could do, say, for like a coaching community, or maybe like a coaching school, or more groups that maybe are
that's
like,
the other that's the other kind of like ideal client group is groups that want to improve their communication, improve their collaboration. So I'm not talking like gaming groups, co-housing groups, burner groups, uh, business communities that want new ways to get to know each other better. Because there are some incredible games out there that really help you learn about each other and help you learn how to communicate on entirely different levels that don't happen in you know a getting to know you brainstorming exercise that was brought out of some other model, right? It People show up differently when they're playing a game, and so I like helping facilitate both online and in-person gaming experiences. So if you're having a retreat, you bring me out and have me facilitate a live group game. We can also do online Zoom versions where everybody is trying to work together to assemble a big picture puzzle, and you have to communicate because you can't see which pieces each person has. So then you have to learn how to talk about the things and make that work without being able to see or share what I have this card. No one can, you can't see that, but I have to describe it. And when you learn to do that across a group of people, it's got its own cool element to it.
I am loving this, and this is sparking a lot of ideas of um, how I can perhaps invite you to groups that create team building among coaches, team building community among artists, among burners, among
Mm-hmm.
healing retreats. Like all of this is just really stoking a lot of fires within me. So I know that we are going to be
Yay.
doing more work together in the future. I can just feel it and see it. So, T, thank you so much for this beautiful time together. This was so cherished and so inspiring, and it's given me a lot of ideas. And um, the thing that I think that I'm really enjoying that you've stirred up in me is playfulness, and there's innocence and desire to connect. And so I'm really at it's really nice to be, age 45 and to have this like playful, like childlike innocence being stirred up in me from a podcast
Yes.
about, human psychology. So that's unique and special. And I really thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate the time.
So
Be well. Oh,
what's the best way for our audience to get in touch with you if they want to work with you?
asimpletwist.com is my website. And you can book a free consult on there. I'm also really dedicated to making this work accessible. As someone who spent a lot of time working with people that could only if only if you can afford it can you get these things, and I'm really not a big fan of that. I'm trying to decommodify my life while also still supporting it. So it's sliding scale availability, and I'm just asking people to help make this possible for other people too. So
Amazing. Amazing. All right. Well, that's definitely got my wheels turning because I like stuff like that. So I'll be reaching out to you when we're done with this podcast about some ideas that are already taking root. So, all right. Well, thank you so much, T. I will post your link and things like that under the notes when I publish the podcast. And so, viewers, please look for that and reach out to T for all of your
yes, let's play. Let's play.
let's play. Yes, T is open for playing, and so we are so excited to get to share this with the audience. And please share it with your friends. And thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your time and attention, and thanks for playing and being open to that. So, all right, take care. Thank you.
Be well.